Next up is electronics and wiring everything together and Arduino programming. So I brought everything inside so I can work on the code on the computer and see if we can get the various pieces and parts operating correctly. Here's the various pieces. I got the Nintendo controller, I got the Arduino that we'll wire up and then program. I have these are called bridges, so you don't burn out the Arduino. So I have two of those, one to control the linear actuator for the brakes, and then one to control the stepper motor for the steering. I also have the encoder here that we'll need to wire up for feedback to the Arduino. Battery cable so I can wire up the batteries. Battery monitor. I have this 12 volt regulator. I had originally planned to just tap one of the 12 volt batteries off of the 48 volt pack to power all the 12 volt stuff, but everybody on the internet said that was a terrible idea, so I don't know if that's true or not, but I figured I'd listen to them and just buy a 12 volt regulator for a step down. Here's the main motor. It came with its own controller, which I'll also control through the Arduino. Bought a couple speakers and a micro SD card reader and an amplifier so we can have some music, some theme music going. Working on the NES controller. I tapped into it and have it wired into the Arduino, and have the code up and running. So the NES controller uses an 8-bit shift register, which basically means it stores all the 8 functions in this chip, and then you have to clock them out. So it takes about 8 clock cycles to get a full representation of the controller. So I was worried it wouldn't be quite fast enough. I did some timing, and it looks like it's responding in less than a millisecond, so I think that's going to be plenty fast for what I need to do. So the one thing that occurs to me now is that there's no fine control on this joystick. It's either right or left, all the way right, all the way left. Which makes me think it's going to be hard to control the steering. I don't really see a good way to be able to steer it if the wheels are always just all the way to the right or all the way to the left. So I may reluctantly make one small concession and try and switch this out for a joystick. Otherwise, it's just going to be too awkward to drive. Dremelled a hole in the back of the controller so I can fit this joystick in there. So I think that'll work nicely. And then to get the rest of the board to fit in, I had to cut the end off that concerns the joystick, but I don't need that anymore anyway. I think all the circuitry that I need is still intact in here for the other buttons. So I think I can put all this together and it'll fit, and should be able to get it working. Okay, next up, some sound effects. I have an SD card reader that I wired into the Arduino. I have a little audio amplifier. These speakers are kind of junky, so I'll get ones that are a little nicer for the actual finish. But to show that it works, I have it wired up through to be controlled by the Arduino. So I'll have some brakes, engine noises, and then just a general background sound. Next up is brake actuator, which I have here. This linear actuator I'll hook up to the brake caliper. It draws a little too much current just to run off the Arduino, so I have it run through this bridge, which allows for higher current direct from the battery. And I think I'll just set it up for like a time, so you'll hit the brake and this will go forward for a second, and then it'll pull back. Okay, motor day. Finally get to see if I can get the motor working. There's about 100 different wires in connection. Wired 4 batteries together, so I have 48 volts, which is what the motor runs off of. This wiring is somewhat temporary. You connect these two together. This is like the key or the starter. Throttle, which I won't end up using later, but to test the motor, I'll hook it up now. And then this is a brake switch, so if I take that out, it should spin. So put the brake in, it should stop it. So when you hit the brake pedal, or the brake button in this case, it'll kill the motor. Yep, and there it goes. I broke into the throttle cable here. This is just positive, negative, and then I think this is the sensor wire. So if you watch the voltmeter. So if I send 3.5 volts to this controller, I think that's floored. So I can create the 3.5 with the Arduino later on when I don't use the throttle grip. So one more thing figured out. Okay, now I have the motor and the controller set up to run with the Arduino. I'm controlling the speed input using the Arduino PWM with the filter. Seems to be working okay. You can see the voltage and the voltage changing in the current as it goes. Step 2 is to wire up this encoder, which I have done. And I think you can see the signals going by. Step 3 will be to set all this up with the PID controller interface, which I can go ahead and get started, but I'll need the actual Kart setup to tune it in. Steering test 1, I have everything more or less cobbled together. Encoder, motor, Arduino controller, and I already turned it on once and it broke the chain, so I reversed the wires, and hopefully this is going to be the one. I'm just sending it some test steering commands to see if it tracks back and forth. Now that I have everything working, I think the next step is to clean it all up and combine it all into one circuit board so it doesn't look like such a big pile of junk. Easier said than done. I have the electronics portion wrapped up, mounted it all on this little board, and tried to clean up the wiring a little bit. Still kind of a mess. Here's the Arduino. I switched out the original Uno for a Mega. Gives you a lot more I/O ports, more memory, more space, though it's not any faster, which is kind of lame, but that's okay. I had the solder bridge I attached to the top of it so I could run wires and add these extra components. I added a relay and the driver chip. Also added this 5 volt power supply to control the Arduino electronics. Switched out that janky SD card reader for the sound for this little dedicated MP3 module. Let's see, wired everything up, put some cool switches on. So I think I should be about ready to go.